Hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Can we all hear me? If we can hear me, kindly go ahead to drop a yes in the comment section so that I can know we are live. Okay, I just want to make sure that we are on the same page. So if you are just joining us and you are from Philoma's family or from Enoch's Hub, also go ahead to drop that in the chat so that I can know you guys are with me. All right, good morning. I can see you guys are coming up already. Okay, good morning, Kingsley. Good morning. All right, so without wasting much of our time, today we are going to dive into what we have. Um, Today we're going to be covering a very important topic, which I believe every beginner should go over, which is called command line crash course, right? So basically, today you're going to learn about what command line is, why it's very important for beginners, things you should know, things you should look out for when you are actually working with command line, the basic command line tasks that you should know as a beginner. And also, after we are done with that, we're also going to go ahead to run some command line codes together to see how we can actually use our command line very well. And we're also going to create our folder, learn how to clear our command line screen once we start. Once our command line, once our terminal is basically packed up, we'll look at how we can clear our screen, and we'll look at how we can also do some other basic commands. All right. Okay, I can see even from Miloma's family. All right, all right. Good day from Enoch Sub. All right, we are all good to go. Okay. So without any further ado, let me go ahead to present my screen. All right. So this is what we're going to be covering today, command line crash course. And basically, if you don't know what command line is, or if you are just hearing command line for the first time, basically what it is it basically allows you to interact with your computer using a text interface, right? So instead of you using a graphical interface or using your mouse, basically command line allows you to interact with your system with just using some set of text commands, right? So that is what command line is. And basically it's important to have a basic overview of how to work with the command line, right? It's very, very important to have a basic overview of how to work with the command line, because what this does is it gives you an edge of looking at how to perform some certain tasks faster, right? Because sometimes it takes a lot to open your folder, navigate to a particular file, then start using that file to work, then start searching for that file to basically get what you want. But basically, when you know how to use command line, it's going to speed up this process. And also, the command line also allows you to navigate through your computer files and folders using text command. Like I mentioned earlier, that the command line basically allows you to interact with your computer using some set of text code, right? But it's basically some text command. Once you can get to know those commands, trust me, working with command line is going to be pretty much easy for you, right? So the next one is it lets you free it lets you perform tasks quickly and efficiently, especially as a developer. And remember, I mentioned this earlier that if you want to perform tasks more faster and more efficient, also, if you know how to use command line, trust me, your life is going to be much more easier. All right. So if you can hear me very well, if the audio is clear, please do well to drop it in the comment section. All right. So lastly, many programming tools rely on the command line, so it's a foundational skill, right? So whatever programming language you want to learn, JavaScript, Python, C++, right? Many of those programming languages rely on command line, so it's a foundational skill for every programmer to have, right? All right. So next, what we are going to cover in today's course, right? So today, first thing that we're going to cover is we are going to look at how to find a particular current directory, right? So if we are inside a particular directory in our folder, how are we going to know the path that we are inside, right? So we'll look at how we can basically run some command and it's going to show us the particular path of folder directory that we are in. We're going to look at how to do that, right? Basically using the command line prompt if you are using Windows, and using the terminal if you are using Mac OS or Linux. Next is we're going to look at how to list all the files that we have in a particular directory, right? So for example, if I'm inside my folder that is called maybe Python class, right? Or whatever folder you are inside, maybe documents, maybe inside your root folder called Daveworld or called HP, right? We're going to look at how we can list all the files and folder that we have in that particular directory. The next thing we're going to cover is we are going to cover how to change directory. Good morning, Precious. Good morning, Amid. Okay, very good. You guys can hear me. All right, so we're going to look at how to change our directory, right? So how can we move from one particular part to another part using our command line only without using our mouse to navigate to different folders, right? So after that, we're also going to look at how to clear the command line screen. So once we are done writing some bunch of command, how are we going to go ahead to make sure that we clear our command line screen in order not to have too much text that we've written on our command line? So we're going to look at how to do that also. And next, we're going to look at how to create a new file and how to create a new folder also, right? So for example, if you are inside a particular folder directory, how can you go ahead to create a new folder, right? I know some of you guys know how to do that using your graphical interface. If you want to go ahead to create a new folder, what you're going to do is, you right click, you scroll down until you see something like new, then you press new folder, right? Then you click on the new folder. Do you understand? Then you now name it, and that's just rename it what you want to give it, right? So that's like a couple of steps out there, right? But using command line, we're going to look at how we can quickly go ahead to basically change our directory, quickly create a new folder also and name it to the one that we exactly want to name it to, right? So we're going to look at that also. So the next thing, or the last thing we're going to look at after this, so after you've seen how to create a new folder or a new file, we're going to go ahead to see how we can delete a file from a folder, right? So for example, if you have um, file A, file B inside a particular folder and you want to delete file B, how can we do that without using the graphical interface? With just using our command line or terminal, how can we go ahead to delete a particular file that we have in our folder? So we're going to cover that in this lecture also. And basically, this is what we are going to cover, right? You can see by my left hand side here, I have the description, and basically this is what the command does, about what the command is. And you can see here I have Windows, which is CMD. So if you are using Windows, just make sure you pay attention to this column that is right here. And if you are using Mac, make sure to pay attention to this column that is right here, right? So when I'm writing my command, if I'm saying pwd and you're using a window, you should know that you're going to type cd, right? But if you're using a Mac system, a Mac operating system, you're going to type pwd, right? And also, once we get along with writing this command, I'm also going to be telling you the command that you're supposed to use if you are running on your Windows system or Mac system. So don't worry if you're using Mac or if you're using Windows operating system, you would be able to follow along. All right. So the first one here is how to find your current directory, right? So basically what this does is it shows the current location or path you are on your computer, right? So for example, if you want to show the current directory or the current path that you are in on Windows, you can just type cmd, then it's going to display the current path that you are in. David, sure, this recording is going to be pre-recorded, right? This live class is going to be pre-recorded. So once we are done with the live class, you can go ahead to rewatch if you want to rewatch. All right. So if you want to also show the current directory that you're working in, if you are using Mac OS operating system, right? So Mac operating system, we go ahead to type pwd, which basically stands for paste working directory, right? All right. So we also have how to also list um all the files, how to list all the files that we have in a particular directory, right? So basically it displays a list of files and folders in your working in your current directory, right? So if you want to show all the files that you have in your current directory, so for example, if you are currently in your documents and you want to show all the files and folder that you have in your documents, the command you're going to use, if you're on Windows, you're going to use dir, while if you are on Mac, you're going to use ls, right? So dir basically stands for directory, right? So it's a short form for directory, and ls means list. So on Windows, if you want to list all the files that you have in a particular directory, you're going to type dir, right? Don't worry, we're going to also do some examples, so just make sure you pay attention. I just wanted to explain this basic command for you before we go ahead to start writing our command line code. All right. So we also have for Mac OS, if you have a Mac operating system, if you want to list the particular files or folder you have in a directory, you're going to type ls, right? All right. So the next one here is to change directory, right? So if you want to change directory, you want to go from a particular folder to another folder, you want to go from a particular part to another part, right? The command you're going to use is cd, and basically this span across using Windows operating system and using Mac OS operating system, right? Good morning, Moses. Good morning, Aliyu. You are all welcome. All right. So if you want to change the directory of where you are currently in your system, you are going to use cd, and it both works for Windows and it also works for Mac, right? So you don't need to worry about the command this time, right? So the next one we're going to look at is we are going to look at how to clear our screen, right? So if you're using Windows and you are done with writing some bunch of commands and you want to clear your screen, so basically when I mean clear your screen, I mean you want to basically like erase all the thing you've written in your command line. So it's like as if you have a paper and you have an eraser also, and you want to go ahead to erase all your work that you've written before, right? And this is where you use CLS if you're on Windows, and if you're on Mac, you're going to use clear, right? So CLS or Windows basically means clear screen, as you can see here, right? So this place here, CLS, is a short form of saying clear screen, clear my screen, right? And for Mac, if you want to clear the screen for a fresh view, you type clear, clear, right? So don't forget that when I'm using this command, you have to make sure you use the correct command that is related to what you are working with. And I'm also going to try to be saying the command I'm using alongside the one for Windows when I start coding also. All right. So the next thing that you want to do is to create a new folder. If you want to create a new folder, remember I mentioned earlier on, please, if you are following this video, do be able to smash that like button, give this video a thumbs up so that our video can reach more audience. All right. Okay. If you guys can hear me loud and clear, kindly drop that also in the comments so that I can know you guys are following me. All right. So you are welcome. Obina, welcome, welcome. Good morning. All right, so if you want to create a new folder, right, you use mkdir, right, to create a new folder both on Windows and both on Mac, right? So there's no separate command. It's basically the same thing once you want to create a new folder if you're using Mac OS or if you are using Windows operating system also, right? So it's the same thing, guys. So the last one is if you want to delete a particular file, right? So this is very, very crucial actually. If you want to delete a particular file, you have to be very, very careful because deleting via command line is permanently, right? So if you want to delete any file from your command line, it's not something that you can recover. So you need to watch out very well if you want to delete a particular file from your command line. I'm saying it again. Once you delete this file, you can't recover it. There's nothing like recovering that particular file because it's going to delete permanently. So you have to be very careful when you are deleting via command line. All right. So for Windows, if you are deleting via command line, you're going to use the command del, then the file name that you want to delete. Right. So don't worry if you don't really understand what I'm saying. Once we get to do the practical, you're going to understand better, and we're going to do that very soon. All right. So the next thing that you can also do is if you want to delete a particular file on Mac OS, right, on Mac operating system, if you want to delete a particular file, you're going to use rm, then the name of the file. So for example, if I want to delete my readme.txt now, right? For Windows, I'll just type del, then readme.txt. On Mac, I'm just going to type rm, then space readme.txt. All right, so we have been talking a lot about the fundamentals of this command line interface and all of that. So what I want us to do now is I want us to actually go ahead to run some live examples together. All right, so now let's go ahead to see how we can actually let's see how we can actually do this, create our commands basically on our system. All right, so right now I'm going to navigate to my system. Right, so currently what I have here is I have this particular folder. Right, so this folder, as you can see from the bottom here, right, as you can see from the bottom here, so let me just go ahead to see if I can help you guys to zoom in more better. So let me see if I can zoom my screen very well. Right, so I'm going to show you how to actually run all of this command in a minute. Right, okay. All right, okay, so let me just go ahead to see if I can increase this. If you guys can see my screen very well, also let me know in the comment section. Right, okay, so currently you can see that in this particular part, right, you can see that there's something that is called command line here. And basically what I did is I created a new folder. Right, so I created a new folder where we can actually go ahead to run this command line basic some basic command line commands that we have. Right, and basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing all the tasks that we want to do in this particular folder. Right, so you can also go along to create a new folder that you know that this is where you'll be trying these examples in. And where did I create this folder in? So I created this folder in users, right? Document users, Daveworld, document, and command line, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead to open your terminal. So now how can you open your terminal quickly? So let's look at this together. So to open your terminal, what you're going to do is if you're on Windows, right, you can click on your Windows icon and search for command prompts. So once you search for command or CMD, you're going to see a command, a black box like this, right? So just go ahead to click enter, right? So or the other option of opening your command line via Windows is you can actually go ahead to click Windows R. So click on the Windows icon down and press R, right? So once you do that, a small box is going to pop up by the bottom left, right? Just go ahead to type CMD, then press OK, right? So that way also you are going to launch your command line, right? If you are on Mac and you want to open your terminal, what you can do is you can click on Control Spacebar, then type terminal, right? If you guys are following me, please kindly drop in the comment section that okay, you guys are following me so that we're going to proceed. All right. So on Mac OS operating system, if you want to open your terminal on Mac, what you can do is you can click Control Spacebar, then type search for terminal, right? It's going to come up, then enter it. Or you can go to your app until you see terminal, you can go ahead to open it from your application from your applications list of applications also. That works fine. Or if you are using a Linux, just click on Control Alt T and it's going to also open your command line for you. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this and I'm going to open the command line, the terminal together with you. Okay. So don't forget to open the terminal, control space. I'm using a Mac operating system, and I'm going to basically type terminal, right? So you can see that this terminal here, I'm just going to go ahead to say open, enter, right? So once I click enter, I'm going to get this right here. All right. So let me just go ahead to enlarge this so you guys can see my screen very well. All right. So I'm going to go ahead to enlarge this so you guys can see my screen very well. So first, you can see that here we have our terminal right here, and we have this folder here, right? So basically, just create a new folder called command dash line in your documents, right? So in your documents, just right click from your the way you normally create a new folder, just right click and type and create a new folder called command line. That's what I did here, right? So yeah, I just opened this terminal. You can see I've not done anything. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to write a command that's going to clear your screen, right? So we want to start from a fresh page, right? So, and if you are using Windows, type CLS, but if you are using Mac like me, type CLEAR, right? So CLEAR is going to clear the screen. So once I click enter, you see what's going to happen. Enter. You can see everything is cleared. So it's like as if you're using eraser to clean all the work you've written before on your notebook. All right. If you are following me, please let me know in the comment section. Okay. All right. You can hear me. All right. Very good. All right. So that's the first command that you have. I'm going to teach you. So that the first thing is to clear your screen, right? So whatever you have done, if you've messed up your tab and you want to create a new page, you can go ahead to type CLS if you're using Windows or clear if you're using Mac operating system on Linux, right? So that's that about that. So now the next thing that we want to do is we want to look at how to actually change the particular directory that we are in, right? So you can see that we need to go to users, Daveworld, documents, and command line, right? So if we want to go to documents, command line, the first thing that we need to know is we need to know where we are currently in, right? So for me to change to any directory, I have to know where I'm currently in. I remember in our previous slide, I told you that if you want to basically move from a particular, if you want to know the particular directory that you are in, right, what you can do is you can type pwd, right? So type pwd on Mac, and Windows type cd, right? So on Mac, pwd means paste working directory, right? It means paste the current part where I'm working in, pwd, right? So once I click enter, you will see that here is showing users. So let me see if I can zoom this. All right. So you can see that. Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm going to go ahead to say clear again from here. Um, minus. So I want to see if I can actually zoom in very well for you guys. So PWD, right? So you can see PWD is just going to paste the working directory where I'm currently in. And here you can see I'm having users, then Daveworld. All right. So you can go ahead to pause the video in case you want to follow along also, right? So you can see user slash Daveworld. Also, you can also go ahead to type pwd if you're using a Mac operating system on your end. It's going to show you the current working directory where you are in, right? But don't forget, where are we going to? So let me see. So we are going to users, Daveworld, right? Then documents, then command line, right? But currently we are in users, then dev world. Then that means we still need to change our directory towards documents, then command line. All right. So now what I can do is to confirm that we have these documents inside this dev world. What I can do is I can say, okay, give me a list of all the files and folder that I have inside this current working directory that I'm in. All right, so a minute, guys. So what I want to do is I want to show all the documents, all the files and folder I have currently inside Daveworld. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my folder now. I'm going to go to Daveworld. And inside Daveworld, you can see that the folders and files I have here are Anaconda project, applications, desktop, documents, download, and so on and so forth. All right. So what I want to do now is, what I want to do now, yeah, exactly. Samuel, thanks for that. You don't need to worry too much. Once I'm done, it's going to be pre-recorded, so you can go ahead to follow along if you want to also. All right. So what I want to do now is I want to show all the folders and files I have in this particular working directory. Right. So how do I do that? Right. If you are using a Windows, type dir. Dir is going to list all the folders and files that you have in that particular directory that you are in. But I'm using a Mac operating system. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to type ls, right? So if you remember, if I go back to our slide, you can see that here I said ls is to what? List all the files in a directory. And what it does is it displays a list of files and folders in your current location, right? All right, so that's what we're trying to do here. So if I click on ls and I click enter, you can see that it's going to display everything that we have here, right? And you can see if we look at it together, you're going to see that we have applications, right? We have applications, which is currently here. You can see it here, applications, right? So we also have downloads, right, which is also here, download. And we also have music, which is also here, music, public, which is also here, documents, which is also here, right? And don't forget, we are going to documents because our command line folder is inside our documents, right? So what I can do is I cannot change to the directory called documents, right? So I'm going to the document directory now. And basically, how do we move from one folder to another folder? Let's go back to our slide, right? So you can see that here, if you want to change directory, what you can do is you can use cd, right? And if you notice this, I wrote use cd to go up one level in the directory structure, and I'm going to explain it to you guys so that you don't need to worry about it, right? So now let's change to our document directory, right? I'm going to type cd space now document, right? So docu. Now one cool part about command line is you can actually go ahead to use tab to complete um the particular folder that you want to move into, right? So I can say tab. So once I click on tab, you see what's going to happen. So look at my screen here. I'm going to press tab. You can see that automatically it's basically auto complete this for me, right? And I can click enter, right? Now, don't forget that we are going towards documents, then command line. Then what I can do is I can now change my directory to command line. I can say cd command line, then click tab again to autocomplete. It's going to complete it for me. Then click enter. Now, let's see if we are currently in the same path, right? So I'm going to type what? To paste my working directory, pwd, right? Click enter. And now you can see that we are in users Daveworld. You can see users Daveworld. Then we have what? Documents, then command line, right? You can see um Daveworld, documents, then command line. So now if I want to if I want to list all the particular files and folders that we have here, all I can do is I can say ls. If you are using Windows, just type um dir, right? So ls, and you can see that it's returning empty, right? So that means that inside our command line here, we don't have any file or folder here. If you guys are following me in the comment section, please go ahead to say yes, or just give this video a thumbs up so I can know we are together. All right. Okay, so next thing that we want to do now is this particular folder command line is like, which is like empty, right? So let's do some cool stuff together. Let's create a new folder together, right? So normally, ideally, the way you create a new folder is by saying you right click and say new folder, right? Then you create a new folder, but we're not going to be doing it that way. Now how are we going to create a new folder? What is the command to do that, right? So let's go back to our slide. Remember I said that to create a new folder, the command they're going to use is what? Mkdir, right? For both Windows and for both Mac operating system, right? So if I come back here and I go to my slide, you will see that I said to create a new folder, right? You have to use what? Mkdir, then the folder name, right? So what this does is it creates a new directory into bracket folder with the given name that you specified, right? So I'm going to create a new folder now called test, right? So I'll say mkdir space test, right? So watch what is going to happen. Once I click enter, then automatically it's going to create a new folder for me here, right? So enter. So you can see what happens, right? Automatically it creates a new folder called what? Test here, right? So if I come here now and I press ls to basically list all what we have in this particular directory, and I click enter, you see that here it returns what? Test. Now that's how to create a new folder, right? How about if you want to create a new file? So for example, let's say I want to create a readme.txt file. What you can do is you're going to use the command touch, right? So touch, I'm going to name this readme.txt, right? So I'm going to click enter. So you can see that immediately I run that, it's going to go ahead to display the readme.txt. All right. So Emmanuel, let me know, what operating system are you using? Are you using Windows or you are using Mac? All right. And make sure that you open the folder that you are currently in. They are currently working on from your terminal. So if you're using a Windows, to create a new directory is also dir. So if it's not showing, that means you are not currently viewing the right folder, right? So what you can do first is to paste the working directory you are in, right? Pwd, right? Then once you can know the directory you are in, go ahead to open your folder. You're going to see that it has been created there, right? All right. So this is how you create a new text and how you create a new folder, right? So now, next thing I'm going to show you is how can you actually go back to Daveworld, for example, right? So for example, if you want to go back here, I want to go back to Daveworld, for example, I want to come back here, right? How can I come back here? So basically what you can do, remember I told you I was going to tell you the usefulness of cd dot dot, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to type cd dot dot, right? So what this does is it takes you one step back, right? So if I click enter, you see that currently I'm in my documents, right? So let's confirm it together by saying pwd enter, and you can see that this user has Daveworld and documents, right? So I can go back a step again. I can say cd space dot dot, and here you can see now that it's showing MacBook Pro, right? My base part. And if I say pwd paste working directory, right, you see that I'm currently in user slash Daveworld. All right. And now if I say I want to list all what we have here, so if I say ls, you see that currently now we have applications, documents, basically everything that we have here is now here, right? So now how can we go back to where we are coming from? So I have to go back to command line now, right? So the cool part is you can specify a long command, right? Not just one command, right? So I can say, for example, I can say change directory to my document tab, so to complete, don't forget, right? Slash, I'm going to what? My command line, right? So command line tab, right? So document slash command line, right? And you can see that here now and I have cd document, right? So let me scroll up so I can make sure. So let me just put this down a little bit, right? So I can, so you guys can confirm you're seeing it very well, right? So you can see here that I said change my directory to document, then command line, right? So I'm going to click enter. And currently you can see that I'm now in my command line. All right. And now if I say ls, it's going to show what we have here, right? So let me go to my document, and I'm going to go to my command line, and this is what we have here. As you can see, Daveworld documents, then command line. Now let's look at how we can delete a file. right? Don't forget I said before you delete a file, you need to be very, very careful, because once you delete a file, it's going to delete permanently. And let's go ahead to remove this readme.txt, right? So, but I don't want to tamper with this, so let me go ahead to create another new text file, right? So I'll say touch, right? I'll say touch, and um I would say text.txt, right? Enter, and you can see that the text file is created here. So if you want to delete this text file, what you can do is, if you're on Windows, use del command, right? So del, and the file name that you want to delete. In this case, we want to delete text.txt, right? But I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to use rm, and I will say text. I can use tab to autocomplete. You can see text.txt, and once I click enter, you will see that it removes from here automatically. All right. And if I say ls, now you will see we just have readme.txt and text.txt, right? So basically these are the basic command lines that you need to know. And just try to basically do some certain tasks by yourself. Try to understand how the command line works. Try to create a new folder, try to create a new file, try to delete it, try to navigate through different um parts of your system and understand how the command line works very well. To be honest, it will get to a time where you are going to be using command line for some certain tasks, especially when we get started with GitHub. With Git and GitHub, we are going to be using command line mostly, because it's just the best way to basically communicate with our system. All right. So now that we are done, so now what we've covered now is we've looked at how to basically paste our working directory, right? Does the C matrix, what do you mean by C matrix, Emmanuel? Um, sorry, what do you mean by symmetrics here? They named me player. I guess that's the name that is there. All right. So we've looked at how we can paste a working directory, right? So whatever where we are working in, we can just type pwd or cd. It's going to list the particular directory that we are in. Also, we've looked at how to list all the files in a directory. If you're using Windows, dir, don't forget, and if you're using Mac, ls, and we've seen that already. All right. How we can change directory. We've moved from one particular directory to another, and you can see how simple it is, right? So once you can understand how the command what the command does, then basically you'll be good to go. All right. Yeah, so this command basically works on Linux also, right? But if you are using Linux, you're going to use the same command that I have here on Mac, all right? So we've also looked at how to clear our screen, right? CLS if you're using Windows, and if you're using Mac, CLEAR, all right? And next we also looked at how to create a new folder, right? By using mkdir, right? So if I want to create another new folder that is called let's say videos, right? I'll just say mkdir and I'll say videos, right? Once I click enter, you'll see it gets created here. And once I say ls again, right? If you're using Windows dir, right, it's going to list all the particular folders and files that we have in this particular directory, right? This particular directory, users, Daveworld, then command line, all right? And lastly, we've looked at how to delete file um from our system, all right? Command line del mark rm, right? So let me just go ahead to clear my screen. I will say cls. CLS is for Windows, so for Mac, I'm going to say CLEAR, all right, and click enter. And now we've cleared our screen. All right, so with that being said, I hope you guys understood what we did today. So basically, we just got to quickly look at how we can run some certain command lines on our system, which is very important. And once we get started with the course, and once you are also using this regularly, basically you're going to understand how this works, and you see how um important role they play, especially when it comes to working with some certain tasks swiftly, right? So command line is a very, very good it's very, very interesting, right? So once you can on these are the basic command line tasks that you should know for a beginner, right? So once we go ahead with the course, we're going to go ahead to explore more different commands, But basically, when you are changing from one directory to another, once you are doing some certain commands, these are the basic commands that you need to know as a beginner, right? So I hope you guys got to understand what we did today. If you do, please do well to smash that like button, give this video a thumbs up, and tomorrow we are going to look at a brief overview on Git and GitHub. So I'm going to see you in class tomorrow. Peace.